Well, today is Wednesday, so why not do What If Wednesday? And if you can, make sure you hit like, leave a comment, and hit repost. It helps your boy out. Now, I used to have an understanding. I remember when I got an understanding that we lived up under a firmament. And then in my mind, I was like, well, how do we live up under the firmament? And if the world is round, how did they build a firmament around it without there being some sort of pillars or something for us to see? So then time went by, and then people said, okay, well, the earth is flat, and they have a dome over that. And I said, okay, now that makes more sense. But then I started to find out that we had this thing called the ice wall, and they started finding other worlds outside of the ice wall. And I was like, oh, holy cow. So maybe the world is flat and we have other worlds outside of this thing here. I mean, it would make sense. But then I started to think. I started to think about this. You see that symbol right there? That is what you call the flower of life, correct? Now, we see this as a two-dimensional map, but what it actually is, they are spheres, circles. In the 3D existence, they would be circles or spheres, like I said, not just circles, but they would be spheres, and they would be overlapping each other. Just like when you were a cell when you were forming yourself within your mother, you started off as a cell or an egg, which was a circle or a sphere. And then you built on top of that, and then you formed yourself. This is how cells are. Cells are spheres, electronic, electromagnetic clouds. They exist in the sphere. And most things, even atoms, most things, when coming into physical existence or some kind of physical existence, they usually take the path of least resistance, and they will form within their atmosphere. So if they're in a place where they're having pressure at all angles, it's going to become a sphere. Now, this is when it got tricky, and I started to really think. I started to say, well, what if this thing that we call the planet, and I'm not saying what it is, because remember, this is What If Wednesday. What if at one point it existed as what you would call a etheric field? Just like we have our own electromagnetic fields around our bodies, and it's an etheric field. What if these things that we call planets were once etheric fields, and they became heavily magnetic, and they begin to draw in particles, and then they begin to form? Now, if they're existing within an electromagnetic field and they have pressure from all points, what would they naturally form into? Spheres. Now, what if this world is way bigger than what we've been told? Now, make no mistake, I truly believe that we live within an artificial environment. I truly believe that we have created our own sun, but I do not know. But if this thing was once an etheric field, and then it became more dense, that means that it too, being in a living entity, it has different timelines. Now, on some of the timelines, what if this thing was hit? What if this thing was hit, and instead of it looking like a round planet, maybe now it looks like a floating rock broken up into pieces? Because if it exists on many dimensions, that means there are many different forms of this thing. There are many different things that happen to this thing. Kind of like quantum leap. It's very well possible that this thing could be round. That's all I'm really saying. But I cannot confirm or I cannot deny. But if it exists on many different timelines, there would be a timeline in which there is a flat surface. But with this whole thing just being flat in a flat plane, from what I've seen, like I said, I live off the Great Lakes. I've seen boats disappear, and it looked like they disappeared on the curve. Now, if you want to tell me what I saw was wrong, you have that right. But I'm just relying on or relaying on you what I have seen. And for many of you who have been on a cruise, the next time you take one, I want you to look at the land when that thing leaves. Get you some binoculars and tell me, does it bend on a curve? Because if we are existing on a curve, the area, and we are up under a dome, the area of the dome would be flat. Let's see if I could do this. If you had a circle, I got a globe back over there. Oh, I could use one. If, just say if, because like I said, I cannot confirm or deny. If you know that it's flat, you know more than I do, and I accept that. But just think, what if it was bigger than what we were told? And each of the so-called 7 continents that we have, it exists in a dome like this here on this sphere. And then what if there's another dome someplace else where other people can live? And see, getting back to the Anunnaki, I was told that people were mad at the technology that they had, or beings were mad at the technology they had because they could go through these domes. I'm just saying, don't be so quick to claim something that you're not really sure about. These stories that I tell you, I have no way of absolutely proving if any of this stuff is real. I can only relay onto you what I've heard over the years. But I don't know for a fact. The only thing that I know for a fact is that I exist right here, right now, in this form, and that I am talking, and that I am standing on this ground. These are the things that I accept. These are things that are of the knowing at this moment. But when it really comes down to it, I don't know. Maybe this is all just an illusion, which it very well may be. But I'm not going to tell you the earth is flat. And I'm not going to tell you it's round. You make up your own mind.